asking the questions that matter, lighting the fire to scatter, dancing with thoughts that flatter, building the dreams we chase after. Whispers are turning to thunder, echoes are pulling us under, fascism stuck in the night, guiding us into the light, exercising the mind so bright, smart equal particles they fly.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me for a special edition of Conversations with Taz. It's Tazisms. And we've got more Epstein Maxwell file updates for you. We're going to get through them as quickly as possible and as concisely as possible. Let's start off discussing redactions. Take a look, and we'll get into this article on the other side.
So obviously you named 6 men on the floor after just 2 hours. How many other names do you think are buried in the files?
At least hundreds, and that's in files that have already been redacted by FBI. So we need to get the DOJ to do a better job to expose these men, but we also need the FBI to unscrub these files. I mean, Trump's FBI scrubbed these files in March. The law that Massey and I passed requires them to be unscrubbed, and they haven't been unscrubbed.
Is there any indication of why they're still redacted?
No, they're in violation. My sense is they're protecting some of the most sensitive things. I mean, look, these files have been one of the biggest scandals in our country's history. They have exposed the most powerful people in finance, in real estate, in tech, in politicians, as having done some very heinous things. And the worst parts are in those FBI files, and those are being guarded, and they need to be unrigged so that this country knows exactly what happened.
Will you be going and seeing any more, reading any more files?
I plan to, but I want to do it it shouldn't take members of Congress exposing this one by one. We need to have some systematic effort to get these names out.
And what does that look like?
Well, it requires the FBI to unredact them, and I'm going to be asking Kash Patel and others to see how we get the unrigged versions of these FBI files.
Now let's get into the article that's also attached to the subject matter, and it comes from thehill.com. Nancy Mace on unredacted names in Epstein files. You would be shocked. Would we? Would we really be shocked? Representative Nancy Mace, Republican out of South Carolina, said Wednesday people would be shocked by the names that have been redacted from files tied to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein that were publicly released on January 30th. Her comments come after lawmakers were given the opportunity to review the unredacted files in a reading room at the Department of Justice. You would be shocked, Pierce, at some of the names that I have seen that come across the DOJ in emails that the DOJ is protecting, Mace said during a Wednesday appearance on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Now, keep in mind, Nancy Mace is always down to play the game. Okay? But also, let's not forget, no, I'm not making excuses for people, but you need to understand all that's going into this. In these files, there are multiple different types of documents. So somebody's name could be in there because they were mentioned in an email as far as, oh, I went to brunch with insert name here. Or it could be from the FBI tip line where you can call in a tip on anything. They document it and go through. There are also people that are named because Epstein had a habit of keeping track of who he felt were anti-Jewish. And generally, they were just anti-Zionist. So keep that in mind as you go through. And we're talking about people on both sides of the aisle. We're talking about famous people, rich people, people in power, prime ministers, former presidents, etc., media personalities that are named in these files she's added. And see, that's the slippery slope. People are not saying, oh, well, these people were brought up. These people, if you're going to talk about who's in the files, talk about who's in court documents, who's in investigative notes, who's in prosecutorial notes, things like that. Just sitting there going, oh, it's former president, because you're just going to keep speculation going. This does not help the victims. Let me repeat. This does not help the victims, making things seem a lot more salacious than what they are. That does not help these victims. It does not help a potential jury pool at all. It muddies the waters. It has people constantly not wanting to believe the actual facts because they think something more salacious is just around the bend. They think that somebody's leaving something out. And no, nobody's doing any of that. Let's see. It's there's enough going on in these files that you don't have to season them and add anything else to them, like at all. Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat out of California, speaking on the House floor Tuesday, shared the names of 6 men he claimed were likely incriminated in the Epstein files. Now, this is how you do it. Don't just go, oh, they're in the file. Especially since the average person doesn't understand what these files are. We are going through a comprehension and literacy epidemic here. We're at a deficit. Mace has been a vocal backer of Epstein survivors who are pushing to publicize the names of wealthy and powerful men associated with disgraced financiers' names. Mace, who's spoken publicly about her experience as a sexual assault survivor, left a meeting with Epstein victims in September visibly upset. I feel the immense pain of how hard all victims are fighting for themselves because we know absolutely no one will fight for us, she wrote on social platform X at the time. But here's the thing, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I do mean to beat Nancy Mace. Yes, she's been very vocal about things, but she's also bullied, intimidated, and disrespected and harassed fellow victims. She's also backtracked on support of the victims here and there, depending on what political gain she can get out of it. And we need to stop talking about everything along political lines. Stop looking at these files going, well, it's both sides of it. It's egregious people. It's heinous people. These are abusers. These are child molesters. These are pedophiles. These are predators. Call them what they are. Stop making everything about a freaking political party. If we do that, we're not going to get anywhere. Mace is among a group of GOP lawmakers who have demanded more transparency from the Trump administration, joining Democrats to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act late last year. Some of their colleagues in the upper chamber say they are just now realizing the weight of crimes committed by the late millionaire. Where have they been this whole time? I've not been one of the members who has glommed onto this as an issue, Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming said earlier this week. I've sort of intentionally deferred to others to find out about it. But 9-year-old victims, wow, and there lies the problem. There lies the problem. You were taught no taxation without representation, and you are allowing your representation to show you that they're not doing their job. They're not taking their job seriously. They're not doing their due diligence. They're waiting for other people to show up and then give them the Cliff Notes version because you're not holding them accountable. I need you to think about how things would go at your job if you performed the way your representation is doing. She literally said, I've sort of intentionally deferred to others to find out about it. Loomis added, initially my reaction to all of this was, I don't care. When you decide to take public office, you don't get the privilege to say you don't care about something. Your job is to care. Your job is to care. I don't know what the big deal is. Remember, Loomis said she had not looked into it. She was relying on what other people were telling her, and that was good enough for her. Thousands of victims globally. She didn't see what the big deal was. But now I see what the big deal is, and it was worth investigating. So if it was left up to her, we wouldn't even be where we are right now. And the members of Congress that have been pushing this were not wrong. So that's really my only reaction. That's your only reaction. Not an apology to the victim, not the apology to your constituency, not an apology for people who seemingly wasted their vote on you, their campaign contributions on you. Cool, cool, cool. Representative Lauren Boebert, Republican out of Colorado, who said in early January, and I quote, "I don't give a rip about Epstein." I want y'all to soak this in. As reported by Politico, has changed her tune since reviewing the unredacted files. When I said earlier today, part of the reason why we are societally where we are now is people's affinity to lean into drama, well, not drama, to gossip, rumors, things like that, because that is willing to be believed without any proof. How quickly people were willing to dismiss things. See, people were like, oh, there's a big cover up. They were paying money and these people were bought. No, no, no. People are willing to, oh, you know them? Oh, he cool? Oh, it's a lot. Okay, child, I believe. Because they will let jealousy cause them to destroy somebody for absolutely no reason and protect someone because the right person vouched for them. Because they didn't see a big deal. Because it didn't. If it's not happening to them or somebody that they know, they don't care. There doesn't have to be a payoff. It just has to be enough jealous, insecure, whatever people who want to use gossip to get to the clicky big, the big girls table, the big boys table, the popular kids section of the cafeteria. Because that's what you all want. That's what you all want. And you don't care how you get there. Whether you do it by sympathy sob stories, you step on your best friend of 20 years, you spread a lie, you don't care how you get there, and that's how we got here. Terrifying language in the Epstein files I viewed yesterday, Boebert wrote in a Wednesday post on X. Emails about torture, frequent talk of consumption, a restaurant called The Cannibal. That is a real restaurant, though. I need y'all to stop reading so much into it. Just Google stuff. The women around Epstein were also deeply involved in trafficking children. Well, Boebert is using her big old bobblehead of smarticle particles. Okay. These are sick people. But you thought it was a nothing burger to begin with, and you weren't willing to investigate it. You weren't willing to wonder and question why all of these women were calling for justice. You took a career in public service, but you didn't want to be in service to the public. But why would you? Why would you? When was the last time U.S. voters held their representatives to account? Because right now everybody's too busy acting like this is a continuation of the Super Bowl. My team's better. No, my team's better. My team's better. No, my team's better. My team has the better merch. No, my team has the better merch. My team has the better stats. No, my team has the better stats. Yay. You still can't afford to live. You're underpaid. You have no Medicare, well, medical insurance. Yay, winning. Woohoo. Woohoo. Now coming from the Raw story, GOP senator took donations from Epstein conspirator before voting to block files. A Republican senator from Ohio voted to block the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files after receiving a campaign donation from one of the convicted sex offenders' co-conspirators, according to a report. Senator John Husted, Republican out of Ohio, received a $3,500 donation from Leslie Wexner, the former founder of Victoria's Secrets, just 3 months before he voted to block a Senate resolution that would have forced President Donald Trump Sr.'s administration to release the files earlier than they did. Tiffin, Ohio, reported on Thursday. Now, earlier today, I was talking to someone and I said what a lot of people don't realize is that the wealthy get away with stuff, not because they're constantly paying people off. They rarely have to pay somebody off. And if they do, it's smaller amounts. They have to pay the bigger amounts to poor people because poor people are like, oh, I want to use this to get a house. I want to use it. Like they're looking for it. Like rich people get impressed by the simplest little things. You'd be amazed. But I want you to think this person was like, screw getting justice, and I could be censured. I could, I know this is fraudulent, whatever, whatever. I could go to for $3,500. Right now, people are clowning the sister of a rap artist who was willing to throw dirt on her sister's name and lie on the family for $2,500. This man voted no for $3,500 for a campaign donation. I want y'all to think about what things cost nowadays, and I want you to think about the dust in the wind that $3,500 paid for on the political spectrum. You're right, Rach. Surprise, surprise. Overall, Husted has taken in more than $116,000 in campaign donations from Wexler at 21 different points between 2001 and 2025, according to the report, making the disgraced CEO one of Husted's longest tenured financial supporters. And before you go, well, has it resulted in from over 24 years? Y'all do realize that not too long ago we were clowning, rightfully so, current Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, because in his entire political career, he has only been able to raise a collective $1 million up until he became Speaker of the House. And it was notable because one of the job requirements, if you will, for Speaker of the House is to be able to raise funds for your political party, for campaigns, for re-election. So over 24 years, $116,000. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. But y'all think these payouts are enormous and such, I would be quiet too for the amount that they paying. Rich people don't pay rich people like that. Y'all get it when they bring up the example of, you give a rich man $500, he'll eat for life. You give a poor man $500, rich people have a bigger cushion. If I'm already a millionaire or a billionaire, what are you going to pay me that's going to impress me? What are you going to pay me that's going to sway me? This is why I tell people you cannot put yourself in every situation and assume that you figured things out. Everything is not from your point of view, hey Tracina, or your lived experience. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. They think that they've gotten things figured out because they're basing it from their limited, and usually the people who do this the most have a very limited scope. The financial relationship spans Husted's entire political career from his time in the Ohio legislature through his current role as U.S. Senator, the report reads. Campaign finance records show Husted is the only senator up for re-election in 2026 who accepted contributions from Wexner during the 2025-2026 election cycle. Now, quick question that I have. Is the Epstein estate still in control of Wexner's finances? I'm not making excuses for Wexner, but facts are facts, and we got to follow the facts. Because before Epstein's death, he was the living power of attorney for him, for Wexner. So a lot of decisions, everything came through there. And do I believe Mark Epstein is playing both sides of the fence? Absolutely. He needs to keep things in confusion and a lot of things out of court so he can stay in control of this estate that's paying for his lifestyle. The ties between Husted and Wexner were revealed at a time when the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files is receiving renewed scrutiny. Wexner's name was mentioned among 6 of Epstein's co-conspirators, all of whom were redacted from the latest tranche of 3 million documents. And this also gained notoriety because Attorney General Pam Bondi was like, "Oh, it was a mistake that we caught after it was brought to your attention, and that's not a mistake. That was intentional. There was no reason to redact Wexner's name because there are people who have done nothing salacious that have nothing to do with the case that were brought up by other people that just happened to be in the vicinity, and somebody ran up and was like, 'Hey, can you take a picture with me and my friend?' And you didn't redact their faces, you didn't redact their names." And the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, looking at you, is making it a point to try to paint minorities, specifically black people, in a bad light. Now, coming from the insider.com, let's get into Epstein files, a list of people facing consequences over the DOJ's release. It's about time somebody gets some consequences. Somebody needs some possibilities behind jail bars. The blast radius keeps widening. The Justice Department's release of over 3 million pages of Jeffrey Epstein related documents has led to a fresh wave of backlash for people associated with the pedophile financier who died in jail in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. The documents have revealed friendly communications with Epstein even after his 2008 conviction for sex offenses. Some of the people who've experienced fallout exchanged crude messages about women, shared government secrets, or had a more expansive relationship with him than previously known. One high profile entertainment industry executive said he wanted to see Ghislaine Maxwell in bondage gear well before any public accusation that she facilitated Epstein's sex trafficking operation. I bet he did want to see her in bondage gear. It was not the first time the vast trove of documents, broadly known as the Epstein files, as I like to say the Epstein/Maxwell files, because that's what they are. There are documents from her trial, and she was heavily involved in everything. He wouldn't have been able to do what he did without her. Has had consequences for his associates. Last fall, the release of tens of thousands of Epstein's emails by the House Oversight Committee led to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor being stripped of his title as a British royal. Technically, Andrew should have been stripped years ago because after Epstein was convicted and served 13 months in jail for the same thing and had to register as a child sex offender, Andrew decided, hey, I'm going to go visit him in Manhattan. Epstein threw a party for him, and then they were photographed together, just skippity doo dah, walking through Central Park. But Lizzie didn't want to put him in the box because Lizzie was a bit of a pedo herself and very incestuous. And let's not forget white people aristocracy. A lot of pedos with a lot of child brides and husbands. And a lot of cousin fucking. A lot of cousin fucking. No, wouldn't call them the Trump files because Trump wasn't in charge of anything. And yes, Trump is named more times than Jesus in the Handy Daddy Sky Daddy handbook. But like I said, for full disclosure and for full honesty, the Epstein Maxwell files are a conglomerate of a multitude of differing types of documents. And a lot of times where Trump is named, it's because somebody else is bringing Trump up. I do have to be honest about that and put it out there. Is he mentioned a lot? Yeah, he had a lot of dealings with them. But there's a lot of it currently, from what we can see, about actual activity. No. So that's why I really don't bring that part up because it just further sensationalizes it. You got to keep things in context so it doesn't go overboard. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers took a leave from his teaching duties at Harvard University while the school investigates. He also resigned from OpenAI's board. Now, I don't know what Harvard is going to investigate or how they're going to investigate, especially with the capitulation that they've had going on. And they don't really have access to unredacted files. Just fire the hoe. Like, you are a private institution, fire the hoe. Y'all was willing to fire people over, oh, we think they're anti-Semitic because they're not condemning Palestinian students and pro-Palestinian protesters for exercising their constitutional rights, and they're not placating to Zionist Jewish students that are pretending to be attacked while they're actually doing the attacking. Missed me with it, Harvard. Epstein was not Trump's fall guy. Y'all realize that Trump is stupid. Y'all make jokes about Trump being stupid, but then when it comes to certain categories, y'all give Trump way too much credit and way too much intelligence. These two behind me, these two had an elaborate web, and Epstein, his own admission, was collecting blackmail material on people because he's the definition of imposter syndrome. But Trump was not involved in the inner workings. He wasn't a mover or shaker. This is somebody who could not keep a lemonade stand up and running. And yes, it is very obvious that the DOJ, Pam Bondi, let's not say the DOJ as a whole. Pam Bondi is working overtime to conceal things, but I think you all are forgetting one, how long she's been involved with these files and how complicit she is in covering things up in Florida, because even the police in Florida were trying to go over her head at different times, at different positions that she had to get justice towards these for these young girls and now women. Two, we're looking at people keep focusing on men, and especially Trump. I think the biggest thing that they're trying to hide is one, how Melania got her visa, how Trump and Melania truly met, and who the women are that are connected. Because a part of Epstein's sweetheart deal, there were co-conspirators who are women that were listed. Most notably, Miss Kellen. But I need y'all to you in a certain sense, all of the United States has a MAGA mindset when it comes to Trump. So many people want to credit Trump with way more than what he is capable of. Way more. This is a man who thought that it was a good idea to sign a contract to sell steaks through the sharper image. Not to mention, Trump holds about as much water as a colander, none at all. If Trump was involved in something like this, Trump would have been bragging about it. It would have been in a book. It would have been in some interview somewhere, whether on video or in print, because he constantly tells on himself. He is very braggadocious because he thinks that that's impressing other people. He would have told. Okay, he would be having smelly parties at his secret island every other day, trying to invite everybody over. He would become, who's my good friend? He would have never cut ties with Epstein. This is why we know and it's confirmed that Ghislaine was the biggest recruiter out there, on top of also molesting children of these girls. He never revert her membership to Mar-a-Lago. Never. He treats her name like it's damn Candyman. Like he trapped in the bathroom. And if he would have been anywhere where he was anywhere a mover or shaker in this, oh, he would be taking credit. Yeah, I had to end my friendship with Epstein because, I set this up and set that up, and the island was my idea, and he was trying to take it. You know that's how he would have came with it. You know that's how he would have came with it. He would have came with that, and he'd have been so braggadocious. So I got the biggest and best island. Epstein's little island ain't nothing. I had all the prime ministers and everything. And he would have never ran with bringing up the Epstein files. And he wouldn't have taken the route of, oh, let's release stuff on JFK and Martin Luther King. No. You know what he would have released? If he was a mover and shaker and he had that forethought, the files he would have released, he would have gone down and he would have been like, hey, let me see all of the Hoover files, the J. Edgar Hoover files. Release the Black Panther files. Release the Assata Shakur file. Like, that's what he would have released, because that would have distracted everybody to get the unredacted files. And if he wanted to distract people with MLK files, he would have had them unredact and release the COINTELPRO files on Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't. He's not that smart. He doesn't even know the questions to ask. This is somebody who acted like, who really truly thought that there were airports during the Revolutionary War. Oh, the co-conspirators, Trisina, the co-conspirators. It wasn't so much contacts. You got to remember, Ghislaine Maxwell is still an international socialite. She was already hobnobbing with royalty and all sorts of things. And her father owned one of the largest publishing companies internationally. She was a mover and shaker. She was a baby of her family. She was very spoiled. She spent most of her time just gallivanting. She is who, lifestyle wise, Kim Kardashian has tried to make herself be. And she recruited underlings and taught them the ropes of, how to go to the high schools and recruit, how to go to clubs and recruit, how to just be out and about, living your life and recruit for him. Yeah. But let's get into these people and some consequences that are being handed out. Hold on. Okay. Let's start with the first one. And that is Kathy Rumler. Goldman Sachs' top lawyer turned in her resignation following weeks of scrutiny over her communications with the convicted sex offender. June 30th will be her last day as the Wall Street Bank's chief legal officer and general counsel, the bank said on Thursday. The DOJ's last tranche of documents showed her offering Epstein advice on his legal troubles, including lawsuits brought by women accusing him of sexual abuse. She gushed over expensive gifts from him, including a $9,350 Hermes handbag, and referred to him in an email as Uncle Jeffrey. I told y'all, buying off rich people isn't as expensive as you would think, because you're thinking of what would be life-changing for you, what would be impressive for you, what would get you to shut up or blur the lines or be willing to take a charge for somebody. You have more to lose, because if you do time, you're not coming back to the same house. You're not coming back. Like, you're going to have to start over from ground zero. So you need a nest egg to come back to. These people have investment bankers that can continue to make money for them when they're gone. They have people and staff that can come and keep up their houses and keep the bills paid and everything else. It's the little things. Like, oh, I don't have enough points at Hermes. I don't have enough visits and I don't have enough purchases to get this bag that I want. But that person does and will go and get it for them. Or, I'm always wanted to meet insert celebrity here. Oh, I can set that up for you. And they bought silence. No different than on the level that we're on. Oh, you brought Kathy down at security. A Boston cream pie donut, that's her favorite. And she doesn't say anything about you taking an extra 30 minutes at lunch and she clocks you in. See the difference? See the similarities, but the differences? Yeah. She has previously said her relationship with the convicted sex offender was a professional association, and she has expressed regret over it. In the statement to Business Insider about her resignation, Rumler said it was her duty to put Goldman Sachs' interests first. It was your duty to, I don't know, not break the law. That's, I would think, that would be the dutiful part. But, what do I know? On from there, we have Brad Karp. The high-powered corporate attorney resigned as chairman Paul Weiss, calling reports about his relationship with Epstein a distraction for the White Show law firm. He also stepped down from the board of trustees of his alma mater, Union College. The documents include emails showing he worked with Epstein to surveil a woman in a dispute with one of Karp's clients. Business Insider has confirmed that the client was billionaire private equity titan Leon Black, who counted Epstein among his advisors. Karp also visited Epstein's Manhattan mansion and asked him to help his son get a job with director Woody Allen. Representatives for Paul Weiss declined to comment beyond their press release announcing Scott Barchet as the law firm's new chair. And that's another thing. A lot of people weren't paid off in dollars and cents. They needed to use the networks. No different than now. If somebody was harassing you or you're pissed off at somebody, I'm sure you have a friend or a mutual online where you can hit them up like, hey, can y'all get this information on me? Or, hey, such and such is problematic in doing this. We've seen people wage war and wage attacks. Quid pro quo is not always expensive. Peter Atatia, the CBS News contributor and longevity expert, stepped down as the chief science officer of David Protein, a protein bar brand, and is no longer an advisor to the sleep technology company 8 Sleep. In the emails from the mid-2010s, Atia gives Epstein health advice that includes crude remarks about women. In one email, he says that a woman's genitalia is low carb. Were his comments crude? Yes. Once again, not defending anything, not making excuses. But if they're friends, and they're like, yes, they're working together, he's advising him. It's very well documented. Epstein had a thing for living healthy and only putting certain things into his body, and he had a regiment that the girls under his charge could only eat certain things and had to have a certain look of their body. But I need y'all, before you start clutching pearls, think about the things you say to your friends. Like I said, I'm not making excuses or anything, but we are grabbing hold of things and making bigger deals about the wrong things that are coming out as we get more information regarding Epstein and Maxwell. We are. People are acting like folks ain't never had no coochie eating jokes or some glizzy guzzling comments. That if you say it out in the general public, people be like, oh my goodness. But if you say around friends, y'all just have a good chuckle and move on. Because when this first dropped about him saying that vagina was low carb, the amount of people stuck on that and going berserk, and I'm like, these motherfuckers done hinted at eating children, but you stuck on coochie being low carb. Like, I myself have jokingly said that white lady coochie doesn't have a taste. So, like, let's get past that. Let's stay focused on the nitty gritty. I need people to stop acting so damn vanilla in their life. Okay, missionary has not been the predominant position in this country since like 1802. So stop. We got just about as many sex toy stores and outlets as we do liquor stores out here. Okay, you got church, liquor store, sex toy shop. I'm gonna need y'all to stop. Like, I'm gonna really need y'all to stop. 67 lives, 40,000 think pieces on. He said Coochie was low carb. Meanwhile, you fucking your boss in the morning, your main at lunchtime, and your baby daddy's uncle's first cousin's best friend's second removed third ex-spouse at dinner time. Yeah, you can 3D print it, get it off DoorDash, Uber Eats, get Amazon to deliver it. Hell, depending on where you live, you can pick you up from Walmart, Walmart.com, or Walgreens. But Jesus Christ, for like 3 weeks, people, he said it was low. Did you hear what he said? They was throwing whole ass babies into Lake Michigan, but you stuck on he said vagina is healthier to eat than McDonald's? Okay. In a social media post, he denied involvement in any criminal activity and said the emails were embarrassing, tasteless, and indefensible. Honestly, if we could say grabbing by the pussy was locker room talk, that was definitely locker room talk. Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, is facing bipartisan calls from lawmakers to resign after emails show he planned a visit to Epstein's island with his family in 2012. And that is what makes it even more egregious to me. Because in 2012, Jeffrey Epstein was already a convicted sex offender. In 2012, Jeffrey Epstein had already served 13 months in jail. And you're taking your family? You just the epitome of fuck them kids and fuck my wife, huh? Lutnick previously said he severed ties with Epstein, his former Manhattan neighbor, after first meeting him in 2005. That I don't know why y'all would say that, given you knew what Trump campaigned on. You knew the rhetoric that was coming out of Pam Bondi's face. You knew how Kash Patel and Bongino had made names for themselves. And that was the lie y'all chose to go with. I severed ties and insert random year here. Like, even if to the public they redacted all of this stuff, these files are being released, meaning that the attorneys for the surviving victims know exactly what to subpoena from who, and they're going to get it unredacted. So what was any of this doing? We got the dumbest bunch of cosplaying, imposter, impersonating smart mofos on the planet in this administration effort. And I blame y'all because y'all keep letting it happen. Y'all will complain if they don't properly salt your fries at McDonald's. But Jesus, they burning the country down. And you just like, oh, it's just another Monday. It's just a manic Monday. Lawmakers asked Lutnick about the discrepancy on Tuesday at a pre-scheduled Senate hearing over broadband. He testified that he, his wife, and kids were at the island for an hour for lunch. Who goes to, you know what, never mind. The DOJ's files show the two men exchanged calls in 2011 and invested in the same company around the time of the island visit. The White House has stood by Lutnick, of course. Because Lutnick has shown he's not afraid to go up against Trump because he's told Trump stuff in confidence. Let Trump go out, some stupid stuff, embarrass himself, and then Lutnick schedules an interview right after that and corrects him. With the Commerce Department saying Mr. and Mrs. Lutnick met Jeffrey Epstein in 2005 and have very limited interactions with him over the next 14 years. Okay, if that is limited, if that's limited interactions, I guess I'll live alone. Steve Tisch. In 2013, Tisch, owner of the New York Giants, exchanged numerous emails with Epstein about women, triggering a review by the National Football League. The emails show Epstein updating Tisch on the women, including their ages, nationalities, and working girl status. After the emails were made public, he said he regretted associating with Epstein and that women discussed in the emails were adults. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has said the league will review the communications and weigh whether they violate its personal conduct policies. No, they don't, because it's a bunch of creeps. But here's the thing. It's no secret that Epstein was the incel speaker. He was the Heidi Fleiss of incels. These are people that it goes to show misogynist bullshit, ain't shit, can't get cooter cat or Bucci cat men. Stop saying what women are looking for and what women are impressed by, because these are men of great wealth, opportunity, everything, and they still couldn't talk to a woman. They still couldn't seal the deal. They had to get a bigger incel who also happened to be a pedo to get people for them, just so that they could finally stop being a 40-year-old virgin. And no, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to be by choice. But if you desire something else, how about work on your personality? takes us to Casey Wasserman. Casey Wasserman announced on February 13th that he is selling his talent agency after his name appeared in the Epstein files, sparking a growing fallout. Soccer player Abby Wambach and singer Chappell Roan earlier said they were parting ways with Wasserman's agency. I really don't give a fuck what Chappell Roan has to say. Racism should have been the hill for you to die on and for you to speak up about. But Chappell, you weaponized everything about yourself, and we know that you're MAGA from a MAGA fucking family, so you might as well stay put where you are. And I would not be surprised in the next couple business months we found out that this was just a public stunt and that privately they were still entrenched in business together. Wasserman flew on Epstein's jet with a group of people that included former President Bill Clinton. The files also show Wasserman and Ghislaine Maxwell exchanging racy and flirtatious emails in 2003, well before police began investigating Epstein and over a decade before Maxwell's arrest on sex trafficking charges in 2020. Casey, I will be coming back to New York torn late afternoon. Maxwell wrote in one email, I shall be wearing a tight leather flying suit. Wasserman said in a statement that he regretted his messages with Maxwell, which took place long before her horrific crimes came to light, and that he never had any personal or business relationship with Epstein. And see, this is why I keep reminding people that these are the Epstein/Maxwell files, because there are people who only dealt with Maxine. Well, I mean, with Maxwell. There's people that only dealt with like Epstein. So, you know. Wasserman announced his intentions to sell his agency in a memo to staffers, with the agency shared with the Business Insider. And this is why I said people that are now like, oh, I severed ties. First of all, you can't sever ties that quickly. There are a lot of stipulations and contracts, et cetera, et cetera. And to sell means you're just not going to, what you're going to put a pin in this and then a couple of months and go, yeah, well, since he sold, I just decided to kiss my ass. Yeah. Now, remember, I said, everybody keeps talking about Randy Andy, but ain't nobody talking about the OG Fergie Ferg. Well, we are tonight. Sarah Ferguson, a charity chaired by Ferguson, the ex-wife, the on-again, off-again wife, because they got divorced and they might as well stay together because they've been coupled since then. The ex-wife of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, shuddered following the Justice Department's document dump. A spokesperson for the foundation, called Sarah's Trust, said the decision was made after months of discussion. Why did you need to shudder it? Y'all been to what she was up to. And if she wasn't involved because that's her ex-husband, remember? Why? What was Fergie Ferg doing? What was she doing with her lumps? Her lovely lady lumps. And yes, I know that's two different Fergies, okay? Enjoy the play on words. Shit. The records show Ferguson sent warm emails to Epstein in 2009 when he was in prison for soliciting sex from a minor. She referred to him as brother I've always wished for and signed off the email with I love you. Ferguson previously said she regretted any association with Epstein. Representatives for Ferguson didn't respond to requests for comment. She didn't regret. She regretted you all finding out. And let's not forget, Fergie is one of the few that congratulated him on the birth of a son. All righty, moving on to Peter Mandelson. Mandelson quit his job as the United Kingdom's ambassador to the United States and left the British Labour Party itself after the Epstein files showed him providing sensitive government information to the convicted sex offender. The emails dating back to Mandelson's time in senior post under former prime ministers Tony Blair and Gordon Brown show him informing Epstein about the change in tax rules, the sale of government assets during a UK financial crisis, and a European Union bailout of Greece's economy. The records also show Epstein sent money to Mandelson's husband, Reinaldo Avila de Silva. London's Metropolitan Police said it's investigating Mandelson over the emails appearing to leak financial information to Epstein. Mandelson has denied any illegal activity and told the Times of London that his husband accepting the funds from Epstein reflected a lapse in our collective judgment. United States. See how swiftly people are being investigated, that people aren't lying in defense of them? Because y'all keep saying, what's a cover up in the government? It's a cover up with the people, the regular, degular, schmegular people. Because too many of y'all are willing to just flat out lie. I sit back and watch it every day, whether it's this situation or another. People are willing to lie to cover this up, whether it's for the sake of their political party, the sake of their race, the sake of their religion, the sake of the person that's being accused has the same favorite color as them. Like, come on, try to do better. All right, that takes us to Morgan McSweeney. McSweeney resigned as the chief of staff for British Prime Minister Keir Starmer over Mandelson, whom he recommended for the ambassadorship job. I advised the Prime Minister to make that appointment, and I take full responsibility for the advice, McSweeney said in a statement upon his resignation on Sunday. In public life, responsibility must be owned when it matters most, not just when it's most convenient. In the circumstances, the only honorable course is to step aside. That's bullshit. What is on the horizon that we're about to find out about you? Because vouching for someone or looking at somebody's resume and fact checking to the best of your ability, going, oh, okay, they're qualified for the job. Because most jobs, you're not looking at who somebody is around socially or whatever. You're looking at their CVV, their resume, if you will, to see if they're qualified. So, what is about to come out regarding you, McSweeney, that you're trying to get ahead of and go, see, I'm an upstanding person, even when I did so? What's going on? Because no, I'm not going to step down from a position because I looked over somebody's credentials and recommended them for a job. No. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayman. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayman was replaced as chairman and CEO of Dubai-based logistics firm DP World on February 13th, after emails between the Emirati executive and Epstein were published by the Justice Department. DP World, which is owned by Dubai's royal family, is one of the world's largest logistics companies and runs Jebel Ali, the largest port in the Middle East. The company did not mention bin Sulayman in its statement announcing a leadership transition, but said Essa Kazem and Yuvraj Narayan will take on his roles as chairman and CEO, respectively. Emails published by the Justice Department show that Epstein referred to bin Sulayem as his close personal friend in a 2010 email. In an email to Epstein in 2015, bin Sulayem said that a girl he met 2 years ago who went to the American University in Dubai was the best sex I ever had, amazing body. Representatives at DP World did not immediately respond to Business Insider's request for comment. And yet, here in the good old United States of America, people are like, but what about this person? But this person's in the file. But not acknowledging the heinousness, not condemning the crimes. Just look at that person and that crime that they committed. Coming from upolitics.com, Trump told police everyone knew about Jeffrey Epstein's abuse in 2006. Newly released records show contradicting his past statements because they're trying to create a narrative based upon the lie that Speaker of the House Mike Johnson stated towards the end of last year. A newly revealed FBI document included the Justice Department's latest release of Jeffrey Epstein-related files, suggested then businessman Donald Trump spoke to law enforcement in 2006 about Epstein's criminal behavior at the time when the investigation was becoming public. Here's the thing. If that were the case, Trump would have been said it a long time ago. a long, long time ago. He he wouldn't have let that slide. He would not have. He would have already put that narrative up and painted himself like a victor, and that would have been information, and that report would have been in the very first document drop that they did. The very first. Now, we still have a lot, and I mean a lot to go through. Uh we'll do one more. I don't want to keep everybody too late. It's already been quite the long and vigorous day. Uh, coming from we got this covered.com, missing child. Madeline McCain in Epstein files leads to decades old image resembling Ghislaine Maxwell being re examined. The name of missing British child Madeline McCain has surfaced in newly released Epstein files, and many are now speculating that Epstein's longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell could be involved in her disappearance. Meanwhile, some are now re examining a 2009 eFit Witness composite image generated by private investigators involved in McCain's search that many claim resembles Maxwell, seeing it as further proof there's an Epstein link. However, authorities have not established any verified connection between the McCain case and Jeffrey Epstein's criminal network, and the claims circulating online remain unproven. Among the documents drawing attention is an account released by the U.S. Department of Justice under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The excerpt reads in part, in September 2009, I was living in redacted. I turned off from my street onto the main road and found myself walking behind a woman and a little girl. When I got up close to the girl, I noticed she looked like Madeleine McCain. The woman was trying to hurry her along and seemed agitated that I was there. The little girl held her hand over her right eye the whole time. Didn't think about it for years till I saw the FB post about Ghislaine Maxwell. The woman I saw looked just like Ghislaine Maxwell. The tipster said the sighting was reported to police at the time and later resurfaced after seeing social media theories alleging Maxwell had abducted McCain. One reason the account has drawn so much attention is McCain's distinctive eye feature, a rare marking in her right eye known as coloboma, which created a visible dark line in her pupil, widely publicized by her family and investigators in appeals for information after her disappearance in 2007. There is no indication in the public record that law enforcement substantiated the reported 2009 sighting or linked it to Maxwell. Mm, mm. I know a lot of people say hindsight is 2020, and we know a lot of people like to jump on the bandwagon and act like they have inside information when it comes to stories such as this. But here's the thing: you're quick to jump on something with a lie. You're quick to make up something, but when you see something suspicious going on, you say nothing. Or you wait until you think somebody is famous and could be connected to something to disclose information. That's not cool. That's no bueno. Um, that's what we have for tonight. There will be additional updates tomorrow. Like I said, there's quite a bit to go through. But as always, thank you for joining me for tonight's special episode of Tazism. I will catch you all tomorrow. Be good.